Hello, everyone. Welcome to Tangle Time Arts. My name is Nana Heron, and I'm a certified Zentangle teacher. And this week, well, actually, we're going to cover 2 weeks. I'm a little late with week 37. It was a very chaotic week for me, and so I'm a little late. I apologize for that. And because later in week 38, I'll be at the Wild Wonder Nature Journaling Conference, which is very intense and a lot of fun. But for week 37 and week 38, I'm going to combine them. So we are going to be taking a look at the very first Tangle, I believe, which is Flux, specifically Maria's Flux. And we'll also take a look at Cubine. We'll be combining them. For this project, you will need your basic tools, a black pen, a number 2 pencil, a tortillon. I do have a graphic one, which is a little wider for filling in those black spaces on Cubine. You need a white piece of paper. I'm using an original tile. And I also have colored pencils, and it's just a pack of 12 from Crayola. Color is optional, as always, but I thought it'd be a little fun to add some color with this one. All right, I'm going to move those out of the way for now because we'll use those last. So we are going to take our pencil, and we're actually going to put in the corner dots very lightly. So you want a dot in each corner. And then we're just going to start with kind of a string. You can go straight across, or you could add a little bit of a curve in it. And that's just kind of a guide for us. You might not need it, but some of us might need it. So let's just put that in there. And then we'll take up our black pen. So for Maria's Flux, which she learned as a calligrapher, it's a pattern that's commonly seen with illuminated letters or ancient manuscripts. And it's really cool. It kind of reminds me of an apostrophe, but it's very simple. I'm going to follow along my line a little bit, and I'm going to curve out into kind of this, kind of like a ball there. And then I'm going to stop and then come back to our original starting point. So it kind of looks like an apostrophe. And you can do this 2 ways. You can alternate, or you can just go along one side. So I'm going to add another one. And I like to come and touch the previous one and then come back to the point like that. Let me demonstrate the other side because some of you might like to work on this side first. So again, it's the curve that comes around into kind of this like ball. And then it comes back just like that. You can, if you like, kind of hollow ball fashion, you can put one behind the other. But my preference is really to have them just barely touching. And I'm going to just keep working my way up. You don't always have to have them touching. You can leave a little space. So there's definitely a lot of variation in the flux. I'm going to put this one a little bit behind. And as I get to the top, I'm making them a little bit smaller. I'm going to go back and work on the other side a little bit. Usually when I do Flux, I I guess I have a preference for Rick's style of Flux, but Maria's style is very pretty. I feel like Rick's is maybe a little simpler and faster, and maybe that's why sometimes I fall back on that one. Now we're going to make these a little bit smaller here. So at the top, we kind of just want to have maybe like almost like sprouts here, like that. So a lot of times, I know in some of the examples, this pattern is combined with little perfs or little orbs. Um, and I will demonstrate that. We can just put them in this area here and then fill in these spaces with some ink. But my preference is actually to go in with stripes. And as you can see, I've switched to stripes here. So you have the option of switching to the stripes, or you can go in with the little orbs, the little perfs. And we do the same on the other side. Like that. I am going to go back through here and add some orbs, just kind of randomly here and there. Just because I think it adds something really cool to our project. They kind of remind me of little berries. And then I'm going to go back in and ink in any of these little spaces here. And take a look and see if I have enough of the little orbs. I might like to add another one here. And maybe one up here. And I think I really want another one right here. Okay. I think that's plenty for me, but you could add more if you prefer. Now we're going to add an aura around all this. You can start on either side. I'm going to start over on this side. And I'm going to start at the point, and then I'm just going to aura around the flux and the orbs, or perfs, if you prefer to call them that. If you need to rotate your tile, please do. All right, so we have something that looks like this. From this point on, we're going to leave this for a little bit, and we are going to put in our cubine in the background here. So we have our dots, and we kind of lost our dots in these spaces, but if you can kind of visualize them, we're going to kind of draw those in, okay? And what we're doing is we are going to be making a grid. This would come over this way. All right. So once we have that drawn in, we're going to put in some horizontal lines. Trying to have them evenly spaced. They're a little wider than my pen, just a little bit. They're maybe about half an inch. And then we're going to come down this way as well, and we're aiming for square shapes. I'm not measuring, I'm just approximating. And we can do the same on the other side. Just rotate around. Don't worry about your lines being straight. I know mine are not. I'm kind of following through from the other side, just kind of picturing where it's coming from the other side. And that's about all we can do for that. And now we're going to put in our Cubine pattern. So the easiest way to do that is in a square. I'm going to start with this nice square here. And just draw the diagonal. And then I kind of aim for the center part of it. You just put in, it's basically a square inside a square. And we're going to go back through and we are going to shade them in. For me, sometimes my preference is actually just to go ahead and put the square in and then put in a half diagonal. For me, that seems to work easier. But if your preference is to do the diagonal first, you can go ahead and do that. And I'm keeping these pretty even all the way across. Now here where we have this area kind of blocked out, we kind of have to picture the corner over here and kind of aim for that. And this one is just going to be a diagonal. So if you're doing it my way, it's just kind of doing an aura of the square shape. So you get a square within a square and then a diagonal. Whichever way works best for you is what I would recommend. I think I got all of those. And then what I'm going to do is rotate all the way around. So this is actually the bottom here, but now it's at the top. And it's the same thing. We're going to do exactly the same thing. So I'm going to start with the original way. And then for me, I don't know why I've always done it this way, but it just makes sense to me. With a lot of these patterns, sometimes you'll develop variations of your own. And here we'll just have a bit of a diagonal. All right. I'm going to flip it back over, rotate it back over to where we started. And then we will be inking in all of these smaller little squares. And this is where it comes in handy if you have a pen that's a little wider. It just makes it easier and a little quicker. If you don't have one, that's okay. It'll just take a little bit longer. And this one only has a small area here. All right, I have those pretty much inked in, and I always like to take a little moment to just kind of make sure these are pretty even this way and also this way. I'm going to rotate around and do the same for the other side. And you might have more little cubes than I do, or you might have less, and that's okay. It just depends on how much space you have available to you. I feel like the wider, thicker pen does a better job of filling in these little squares that have the diagonal running through them. It just blends that in better. All right, I think I have all of those inked in. I'm going to turn this back around. I'm going to put the cap on that pen. And what I'm going to do is pick up my pencil. Now, if you are not going to add color, you might want to, with your ink pen, you might actually want to ink in these stripes like every other stripe. But because I'm adding color, I'm not going to do that. So if you are only doing the black and white with shading, now would be a great time to add ink to these stripes in here before shading. All right, for me with shading, for the Flux, I like to put in some shading right inside here. And I do this for whether I'm adding color or not. It doesn't matter. For both of them, I add a little bit of graphite right in this area. All right. Let's see. I think that's all I'm going to do for the Flux for right now. For the Cubine, we have these two. I don't know. I always kind of think of this side as like a wall, and this is kind of like a ceiling. You have to pick where you want your shading because you're going to leave one without shading. And I typically like to put the shading on the wall side, what I call the wall side. So it's for me always going to be on the left here. You might choose to put it on the top here, and you would do that for all of them. We're just looking for consistency here. think I have enough graphite in those. And then I'm going to also turn it over again and do the same thing. I am going to keep the shading on the left. All right, I think I got all of the spaces. I'm going to rotate it back. And I'm going to pick up my tortillon. And I love this part, working with the tortillon. It's just so relaxing. So it's just a back and forth type of motion, just blending the graphite in. I love hearing that scratchiness on the paper. And when we do this, you really get this wonderful kind of 3D effect here. I'm going to rotate this around and do the same thing this way. You can go in any order that you please. You'll see me kind of bounce around because I kind of like to work randomly. And then we have that. So we have these cubes kind of face this way, and these cubes are kind of facing up that way. And they're split by our flux in the middle. Now we're going to go back in, and actually what I like to do is add a little, we didn't do this with our pencil, but now that we have a lot of graphite on the point, I like to add a little bit to the round kind of bulb areas in our apostrophe shapes. So if you have enough graphite on your tortillon, you can just go in and do that like that. It's very light, it's very faint, and that's what exactly I'm looking for. That's a really nice way to get a little bit of shading when you don't want too much. And I'm just blending these areas out. All right. How cool is that? Looks really cool. I love the black and white, actually. And I'm going to take a moment to just take a picture of that as it is. All right. And then for those of you adding color, we can grab our colored pencils. You can use any colors that you want. Actually, that's totally up to you. I think I'll start with the greens. And there's a kind of there's green, and then there's a yellow green. So we are going to start with the green, and you can start at any one. I'm going to start with kind of a larger one to demonstrate. But I'm going to go in with the green, kind of adding medium pressure in the stem-like area, and then up in this rounder area, it's a softer, more circular motion. So a little pressure in the stem, and then in the round area, just little circular motions. And maybe you don't want your flux to be green. You could use other colors like blue or violet. But I always think of flux as more of an organic or botanical type of pattern. So again, stronger in the stump area and much lighter over here. Just those very light circular motions. Back and finish these. And what I kind of like to do with the green pencil is add a little bit over those shaded areas. So we had added a little bit of shading with our tortillon, and then I come back over those with the green a little bit. And up here, I'm working very lightly because I feel like those are just like buds. So those would be a more tender green. Now I'm going to switch out my green for the yellow green. And just going to come back in here and add a little bit of that. You could, instead of the yellow green, you could actually use yellow. And I'm going even over the darker part, the heavier part, I'm adding a little bit of that yellow green. Again, these are circular motions. I'm pressing harder in the stem area again, and lighter up here where I'm doing the circular motions. rotate around a little bit. All right, we made it through our flux there with the green. That looks really cool. How are you doing at home? Did you stick with the green or did you choose a different color? I'm kind of curious. So once we have that filled in, now we're going to deal with these striped areas. And I'm going to choose something different. So I'm going to pull out the yellow and the orange, and I think it's red orange. And before we deal with the stripes, I am going to add a little yellow just to these end areas because I feel like those would be definitely a lighter color if this were a plant. And just a little bit on these next ones. Like that. So you can choose to do that to all of them or just a few of them. I'm going to go ahead and add it to all of them just for consistency and because I kind of like it. All right, that's all of them. It just adds a really nice, it just adds a nice color to it. Gives it a little more depth. All right, so for for the stripes, I'm going to go in lightly with the orange. I'm not pressing too hard. I'm just adding, just kind of blocking in the orange color. And again, you might choose something different. Maybe you want yellow and brown or something with red in it. So you can play around with it. I'm just kind of in an orange mood, orange and yellow. Maybe I'm thinking of fall, I guess. All right, so once I have that kind of blocked in, I am going to switch to my yellow. And I kind of want these the outer stripes to be a little lighter. So I'm just putting the yellow over the orange. And I am pressing kind of hard for that with the yellow. I just want to make sure it kind of fills in over the orange like that. And then at the more pointier end, I'm going in with the red orange. And for the red orange, I don't have to press very hard because it's pretty bright itself. So no matter what colors you choose, you probably want to have three different colors. And then I'm going to pick up my orange again, and the areas that's left over, I'm going to press a little harder with the orange. So that's roughly the middle. Like that. So that looks really cool. I really like that. I like that color combination. And I like putting it in there with the stripes. The last thing you have to decide is if you would like to add some color to the little the little orbs, the little purse, or the little berries, if you will. You can do that with colored pencil, or if you have some type of a gel pen, a metallic gel pen, you can add it with a gel pen. I actually kind of like it the way it is with the little white berries. Um, just taking a photo. Um, but I'm going to go ahead and take a gel pen, and this is kind of the copper color one. It's from Altitude. I'm going to fill in these orbs with a little bit of the gel pen. Just so you can see how it looks, and then you can decide whether you want to do gel pen or maybe colored pencil or just leave them white. So I'm just trying to give you different options. All right, I think that's all of them. Oh, I like it. It's kind of cool. Um, and that's it. Something that else that you could do if you wanted to is that you can add a little bit of shading around these areas right outside where we had the aura. And we can add that around these areas too, just a little bit as kind of the finishing touches. Not adding a lot. It's not very thick. It's just just a little bit. And then pick up your tortillon and also go around those areas. Be careful when you hold your tile so that you don't smudge the rest of it. And especially if you did use a little bit of gel pen, gel pens can take a lot longer to dry. So I am trying to just hold it on the edge here. There. There we go. How cool is that? So we have Maria's Flux with some orbs. And then we use stripes in between those areas. And then we have Cubine in our background. And we have it kind of going both ways. We have Cubine going that way, kind of pointing up, and Cubine kind of pointing this way, pointing down. So I'm going to put my initials in here, and I have to kind of pick a spot. Do I want to put it like on the bottom, or I think I'm actually, let's see, where do I want to put them? I think I'm actually going to put it here. Just tuck it in there. And even though my gel pen's a little bit wet, I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to fill in my information. I always put my name and the date. And we have our, in this case, we're doing tangles of the week. So week 37 was Flux. This was Maria Thomas's. And then for week 38, we had Cubine, 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 which is an awesome 3D type grid tangle. All right, gonna flip this back over. That is our finished piece. Be sure to hold it up and rotate it around and admire it from all different angles. That's really cute. I really like it. And I really love the stripes in here. I'm so happy you followed along with me today. I had a lot of fun and I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. And I really love the fall colors too. I love putting a little bit of color in between this drama tangle here with the Cubine. It looks awesome. All right, I will see you. It'll be a little longer this time because I will be at like I said, the Wild Wonder Nature Journaling Conference later this week. And that's a very intense experience, but it's a lot of fun too. So if you're into nature journaling, you might want to check that out. And we'll be back later in the month with week 39. I'm looking forward to it. I hope you have a great week. Take care of yourself and take care of your family. And I'll see you next time. I love you guys. Thanks for joining me.